Hello, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick take on the Snyder Cut and just tell what my thoughts are, my reaction to the film after watching it not too long ago. It was a very long movie. It's hard to get through 4 hours worth of anything. But from the opening scene until the end, I think that Snyder actually did an excellent job. I was totally happy with the final product. I mean, it's like taking something in retrospect and actually being able to capitalize on the flaws of the original film. It's kind of like doing a redo or a retake on something, you know? I mean, they actually shot scenes and stuff. So, in all fairness to Joss Whedon, I'm sure that if he looked at the film, he'd even be able to take a look at it and redo it in ways that would appease the diehard fans and all the people that was calling for the remake of it. So Zack Snyder's had a lot of time to think and contemplate how he could do it and make it palatable for the audience that was craving for something different. With that said, the official critics on Rotten Tomatoes, as of this reading, looks to be around 74%, 75%. So the critics aren't 100% sold on the new take. But they've always been that way to comic book movies. So we got to take that with a grain of salt, okay? So we have the critics' opinion, which is at 75. We have the audience's opinion, which I'm sure that they're very happy that they were able to influence the movie industry in the first place. So you've got a lot of diehards on there, maybe a vocal minority that are screaming in triumph for getting what they wanted. Obviously, they're just happy that it's there. So they probably went on there and put 90%, 100%, whatever. But, you know, I'm going to give you my fair and honest, non-biased opinion based on what I saw. When I first heard about the Snyder Cut, I was thinking to myself, it is what it is. Most of these scenes were shot, from my understanding. Now, I'm not a big historian on this project. I'd say I'm pretty much a comic book geek, so I'm not a casual fan. But I'm somebody who is looking at it just from a moviegoer's perspective. Somebody who is just looking at it like, hey, I'm just going to go watch a film, and if this is good, that's great. If it's not, then I'm going to say so, you know? I'm not taking my life on it like it's going to make or break me to go see this film or do anything in terms of my perception of the DC universe. You know, I'm going to enjoy DC, whether this movie sucks or it's good. I would love to see movies that materialize and kind of exemplify the types of things that I loved about the comic books. With that being said, the first film I enjoyed. I thought it was fun. You know, the Joss Whedon's version. It was comedic. It certainly wasn't consistent with the rest of the things that Zack Snyder has done up to this point. The whole tone of the movie universe, I think, was set in Man of Steel, right? So it was dark and kind of a gloomy perspective, a little bit more real, I guess you would say, which was cool, you know? The movies that they were doing wanted to be a contrast to what Marvel was doing. They wanted to do their own thing, and I respect that. I'm also a professional wrestling fan, and like that's why I liked ECW and stuff like that. It was different from the product that WWE was doing at that time, or WWF. They was doing stuff that was kind of went out in the 80s, and ECW is more about the 90s and what's going on today and trying to change the perspective. And eventually, I think the whole culture was developed in wrestling as a result of what ECW did. So you take that and you translate that into this comic book movie verse, and I think that you have a pretty good correlation. Just to give you a rundown of what I thought about the film, I thought it was a great piece of art. I thought it was amazing. And Zack Snyder should really be happy with, you know, the final result. I think it is consistent with what he started with Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman. And I also liked the director's cut of Batman vs. Superman a lot better than the original too. I think if they just take the shackles off and let this guy do what he really wants to do with these projects, I think that he can really do some magic. I was excited when Zack Snyder took on the DC universe the way that he did after watching The Watchmen. I thought that The Watchmen was an incredible piece of art. And again, the director's cut of that is way better than the original. So, like I said, you let this guy have 10 hours with a film, whatever he needs. Obviously, if you're a great artist, you could probably convey a great story within the time frame of a 2-hour story. So I guess I should say that. Perhaps, does that mean he's not so great? Or does that mean he just needs extra time, to convey the type of art that he does? Maybe that's the case. I'm not sure. Maybe he's better in the long form storytelling. But at the end of the day, whatever it is, it worked for me. I was glued to the movie for 4 hours straight. I couldn't turn away. No bathroom breaks, no nothing. I mean, I thought it was just amazing. I binged the whole thing, and I thought it was just really amazing. I thought Henry Cavill's character was a lot more sympathetic, and it had a bigger impact on the story. Just watching these characters develop in the ways that they did, I think that things weren't as rushed as the original movie. I think that you'll find that everything makes a lot more sense, which it did in previous Zack Snyder films. Like I said, when they've given him the director's cut, and they've allowed him the leeway to add all the different elements that helped make a more consistent, more clear story, then he's really knocked it out of the park. At the end of the day, I was just really, really happy with the final result. It was really satisfying after all the hype, because you never know what you're going to get, and I try to tune that stuff out. I try not to build up anything in my mind so I can go in there and watch it with a clear head. When people were all excited about Infinity War and all that, I just went in there and said, look, I'm just going to enjoy the film. And I went in there and I had a great experience. I tried to not listen to all the spoilers and all this, and I'm not going to give you any spoilers here neither. But what I will tell you is, if you enjoyed like the director's cut of Watchmen, you enjoyed Superman versus Batman, the director's cut, and you like Zack Snyder's work, you're really going to like this. I'd say this is probably the best effort of the whole series, and the emotions that go through your mind while you're watching this film are just incredible. They don't let you down. Zack Snyder really captures the kinds of things that you were hoping for these characters to capture. They wanted to make this have emotion. They wanted to make the characters have substance to them, not just, be comedy characters like in Marvel. Everybody's dicking around and joking. They don't have much seriousness to them. This is deadly serious, this movie. And everything that's happening really means something. So I guess the only thing that makes me upset about it is the fact that Snyder's been stripped of his involvement in future projects. While watching it, I couldn't help but to think, man, what more could this guy do? But I mean, if you're going to tie him down and restrain him to a 2-hour format and not let him have his vision come out, then it's going to be a null and void situation anyways. I mean, you got to give this guy the reins and let him do it his way. That's the only way it's going to work out. Otherwise, it's just going to be Joss Whedon's version, which is just wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. No substance. Just ha ha. Let's get to the end. Let's take your money and get you out of this theater. And that's how I felt, after watching that one and then watching this one, you can tell a very stark difference in what the intention was in the film. Zack Snyder was trying to tell a very serious story with lots at stake, lots of emotion, and you could feel it coming off the screen. And the actors did such a great job. And I feel so good about the whole cast and what they got out of this, because I'm sure that they, at the end of the film, they watched the cut and they said, really? We did all this extra stuff and this is what we got whenever the Joss Whedon version first came out. And then now you get to see what they really wanted to happen. They really pulled everything and did such a great job. I mean, the whole cast from Jason Momoa, Gal Gadot, all these actors in this film really did a great job in conveying the emotion, moving the story along. And the writing was great. The way that everything progressed was so coherent in this version, and so easy to follow. I don't know what they did. And you can hear David Ayer say the same thing about his film with Suicide Squad. It seems like they just like to chop these movies up. Warner Brothers, I mean, come on, guys. Really? You're shooting yourself in the foot. You get these artistic directors that want to make these films a different way and separate themselves. Look at the Joker. You finally took off the shackles because the budget was lower, supposedly. And you just let them do what they needed to do. And look what you get. You get a great piece of art that is based in the comic book realm. And a lot of people have a problem with a lot of the source material coming from comic books, as if, this format was not a relevant part of our reading history. If you're talking about the Generation Xers from the 80s and above, a lot of our reading material comes from comic books, and it wasn't children's books. These are books that were serious. They dealt with serious issues. They dealt with characters that were very complex. It's like we needed more. We saw all these books like The Great Gatsby and all this, and we were more impressed. Well, I don't speak for everyone, but when I was growing up, I was more impressed with like Greek mythology and all this when I was in literature and all through school. And I would read comic books, and that would be a natural progression from all of that. And the writing from the 80s on through the 90s and everything became very serious, very dark, and it has a lot of substance to it. So, I mean, I think it's a rich source of entertainment, and it's a big part of our culture. So I don't think that you can discount comic book writing as something, just for children or something silly or whatever. This is serious art. It's serious writing that should be commended. And they made a progression. They didn't treat it like it was kids or treat me like I was a kid reading it. Anyways, in conclusion, the Justice League, Zack Snyder's cut, highly recommend it. Couldn't recommend it enough. I mean, this is just a great, great redo on this film. Like I said, I was skeptical about it, and I definitely highly recommend it at this point. You shouldn't miss it. Nothing more to say. They did such a great job, and I'm glad that their vision of these characters is finally came to fruition. And I think that now Marvel has some serious competition. Interested to see if the DCU continues on through the movies. I would love to see it. I want to see all these guys together on the same screen again in another Justice League at some point. I want to see Darkseid get his ass beat. I want to see Superman in that black outfit. I want to see, I want to see all these guys get back together and fight again for a similar cause. This was really good, and definitely highly recommend this. I'd give it the 90%. I'd give it the 100% for sure. And I'm not just a fanboy here. I'm somebody who looked at it from an objective perspective. I thought, hey, are we just going to get the same stuff? Maybe a few added scenes. Went in there very skeptical. Watched the whole thing all the way through. No stops. Was highly entertained. I think that if you're a fan of comic books, you're a fan of the DC universe, you'll be very, very happy with this final product. So there's my 2 cents. All the best for everybody. Have fun.